Well, hello, I'm Angelo Schalley, so that's where we'll start. A little bit of my background. Been 20 years in IT, building data centers all my life. Been around the world, building networks, doing security, automating data centers a lot. Been building since I was a kid, as you can see, so I've always been a builder, doesn't matter what. Like to build houses, build tech, whatever. Like doing that a lot. Mountain biking to definitely calm me down in these really stressful moments. So it's kind of a little bit of a background what I go through. Some companies that I worked for, Centric, big MSP cloud provider here in Europe. Fortinet, it's like a security company that builds firewalls, and then Protocol Labs. And I'll go through a little bit more about that in a little bit. So today, working on 3 companies today. Mainly here today, talk about my journey through these companies. Linux, storage provider, hosting company. It's been around for like 20 years. The storage provider since before mainnet when I was testing it out. Decentrally is a drag and drop solution that I'll talk more into in a little bit. And then Akave is the fully decentralized version of that, building on-chain data lakes on Filecoin. Let's get into that. So, my journey into Filecoin, and it's been a lot. So, what I just talked about, building data centers and all that, it's pretty chill, pretty, simple life before that. Everything easily structured. You can go through things like pretty easily. Used to take like definitely 3 weeks of vacation or 5 weeks or even 6 as a European. You have a lot of vacation, so that was definitely something that I'm accustomed to. But then it kind of, at a certain point, COVID hit 2019, and I started looking into Filecoin. It's kind of had some extra time on my hands and started playing around with it. I had like a test infrastructure in my basement back in the day from my hosting company that I was running for a lot of people. And I sort of started putting it in there in my basement in Belgium. So that's where I started out. I had a full 19-inch rack there, and I just built it up there. I had like redundant power, redundant internet, all that was available. So I was like, let's give it a go. And I bootstrapped it there, and I built it in a couple of weeks. And that's where it all started. So, and at a certain point, mainnet launched and I was off. So I was in the ecosystem. It's my introduction into crypto and everything. And then from then on, I can tell you life was a lot less simple, no more vacation, a lot more hands-on working on it. Got a lot of support from my wife all the time going through it because it was a lot. And then also kind of like early on, I kind of took on, some more efforts into the community itself that started with Miner X and that later converted to SPX, which is kind of, supporting a lot of the testing and the field testing of Lotus, and kind of really got active as an SP, traveled kind of between Europe and the US anyway. So I was at all the events and being in the ecosystem and going through the motions and then seeing how it got built and expanded and grew. And then at a certain point, also my setup, my storage provider setup grew that big, and I had to move it and migrate it to here in Brussels, here in Zaventem, which they have I chose one of the data centers that I'm accustomed to with all the tier 3 and GDPR compliance and all that fun stuff. So I migrated it there. So December 2020, sorry. It's been a while, but it's still up and running. Still there, running it there. At a certain point, I saw the benefits of using Filecoin a lot. I saw also how other SPs were active in it, and because of my storage provider background and like I knew how the data center world kind of fit into that and how that worked together. And then looking at what my customers needed at Linux, looking at for like a cost-effective way to store data and move it around, I kind of got this idea of why not move everything out of the Google Cloud, where all the hosting infrastructure was residing and running, and move that all those backups and all the backend storage that customers like use on a daily basis. Let's move that into Filecoin and make that a little project that to lower cost and to make that more efficient. That's where it all started. And I can tell you back then in 2020, was not easy. No easy interfaces. Everything needed to be coded manually. It was a lot more effort than now, which I'll talk to in a little bit as well. So that's kind of when Decentrally got born. It hatched in 2021. So I built it. It's an easy kind of was like started out as a simple web interface. Like with a back end of like prepping all the data, hosting all the data, moving it to the storage providers that I knew, or like mainly my own storage provider, and growing it that way. I'll show you a demo on what it became in a little bit. And today it still runs, it's up and running, so that's what I'm gonna show you. And from there on, kind of like I already saw a lot of the needs that like would make Filecoin work really efficient around like easy interfaces, around like using an S3 API or like an easy drag and drop setup to make that work. So more developing, more bootstrapping, putting it all together, optimizing the backend, sealing pipeline, moving data around more efficient, making sure data is not duplicated. There's a lot of infrastructure components involved, so we kind of made that happen. And then in 2022, I remember, well, it's one of the first meetups in Austin. I kind of presented on it, an easy drag and drop, and that's where it kind of like had its first public appearance on how easy that worked. So now, how do I basically make that work? From a storage perspective, like when you look in the cloud and you're hosting data for other people and you're hosting all these websites and all these backups, at a certain point that data just starts accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. And at a certain point you want to move that out. Now, moving data is not just something that you can pick up and move around, like especially not when it's like in a database or in the cloud residing on like a bucket system or just backend storage or a network attached storage or whatever it is. So we need to first like kind of find a way to easily get that out. Now, I started creating this interface on the storage side, on the hosting infrastructure, and like started moving it into Filecoin through Decentrally. Hopefully I can show you a demo on how that worked. But mainly I had a combination of moving things through S3 into Filecoin as like a little middleware. And parts of it I used a drag and drop solution that I made, and also some customers adopted that at a certain point to make that use. Now, purely on cost, at the time it saved me 60% overall on cost, which was a big savings for Linux. I mean, it's not a huge company, but it did like have like at the time around 2,000 customers, which is not that small. Which, you know, if you can introduce like savings like that, even on that scale, that's enormous. You know. So at the time, I was kind of also, you know, going into the ecosystem, already working with protocol labs, presenting on certain things, started at the first ESPA, presenting on why you should charge for storage from an SP's perspective. Back in 22, and that's where, like, during that time, I kind of, you know, got to know Stefan Vervaat and some other people at Protocol Labs, and I started as one of the solutions architects and grew into the solutions architect lead at Network Growth, and that's kind of where my journey into Filecoin even got like bigger. I mean, I was way more involved. I started building this calculator for storage providers, even that people can see like how that works and where the benefits are and like what costs are associated. So basically supporting the network and like how it will grow into what it is today. Now, October 2023. We're a year later almost. At the time, you know, a lot of ideas were thrown out, a lot of teams were around, a lot of possibilities out there. So we started nucleating out of PL, or at least the idea came there. And I remember we had this kind of offsite in Spain where we started talking about. My first conversation was with Daniel, and kind of ideating through what we could do as a nucleation effort, or like a team or a company moving forward. And yeah, so we kind of came with this idea. At the time, we didn't have a company name yet, so the idea was born, which later would be the name Akave, which I'll get into in a little bit more. So that was all well. We ideated and kept working on it. And then earlier this year, supporting the ecosystem, we also publicly launched Decentrally, which is the same version I was running internally for all my customers. So it's like battle tested or field tested over the years, and now publicly available to store data on Filecoin. Okay, so was yeah, why keep doing all this? Because like I'm at 3 companies right now, keep building. We had a bear market. I can tell you at times I was tired trying to get through it, but it's just so exhilarating and so great working in the community, kind of working with the people that I like working. It's super high-end tech, super new tech. Like everything gets like refreshed and renewed every couple of months almost, on like how things are built and done, and it's so exciting. So yeah, I kind of found my why in that. Kind of I'm so excited every time to keep building and to keep iterating and to keep finding new ways to keep myself almost busy, I would say, on several things. And also at a certain point, I remember making a boot, like a, what's it called again? A vision board with my wife, Angela. And I put on there so that I'm gonna build this or do this no matter what. And that's where I'm still today. Decentrally is built, it's public. Akave is being built. The code has been released on Friday for the first kind of version. It's kind of a teaser demo that I can show you later on. And we just keep doing it. And then I found my people to do it, kind of together with Stefan, Daniel. We kind of founded Akave. The company got incorporated. We're in it together now. We're stuck on each other for the next 5 years, so there's no going back now anymore. And it's been great so far. So kind of if you're interested in building with Akave, for instance, you can scan the QR code and go through like the form and get excited about that. That's what I'm gonna show you the video. And then on Decentrally.cloud, if you want to have an easy way of storing data on Filecoin from that perspective, you can go look at it and kind of have a try. There is a free trial available, so you can do that if you want. This is kind of a small teaser video on how the Akave stack works on the front end. I'm going to show you how easy it is to use the S3 API and how it natively will break it down into chunks and kind of creates the Merkle tree and the root CID around it. And we'll see how fast it is. So, whoa, let's see. There we go. So this is a demo, going through it. It's kind of slow, so I can slowly truck to it. So welcome. Oh, and there it goes. So still going. So here we're going to use like the compatible API. I'm just going to use traditional cloud API commands that were used from AWS. So nothing fancy on the client side, but what happens in the back end is kind of the magic here. So just like a quick verify on seeing like, okay, what are the available buckets there? You can see like there's a few ones that are pre-created that I'm working on, or that have been created to work on. So that's from the structure itself, and let's go create one. So here you go, creating a new Akave bucket, which is a virtual representation of the data behind it. And then we'll do a quick show that it got created. Here we go. It's available, ready to use. And the timestamp, which I'll talk through a little bit. Now, let's have a quick check to make sure that it's not pre-configured or anything or pre-filled. So just quickly checking if there are any available objects. So it's empty. So no data has been uploaded yet. So we'll just upload a small little video to give that a try. Let's see what happens. And then we'll go into the backend and see what happened there. And you see that that object is created. It's available. The root CID is stored as an e-tag to make it easy to bring it back. And here you see in the backend what's happening is the virtual bucket, the root CID associated with it, the file associated with it. And then you see how it's broken down in parts. People that know IPFS will recognize that right away. There we go. And here we'll see kind of like, you know, the representation again, but we'll just pull it back into a local file system and then verify that it's downloaded correctly. You can see the size in the backend being pulled. These are very traditional tools that you can use as a client, and Akave will just deal with that. Now, that was the demo. Now, to give some context on what's happening here is this is the first part of what we're building. Every part of this is going to be on IPC, on Filecoin. So that's very important to know. So what you see, what you just saw on data structure is going to be on chain. So very visible. All that control will be at the user side. So if you want to do, for instance, encryption or erasure coding or replication, you will have your choice in the beginning when setting that up on a bucket level. That's also why I just showed the bucket in the beginning. So when you create the bucket, right now, that's not available in the syntax, but that's definitely the future where you create your bucket, you kind of set your replication policy or you set your erasure coded policy, and then you choose kind of what tiering you want to do. If you want to keep it on the Akave hot storage nodes or you want to directly store it on Filecoin, you'll have that option, and the API or the SDK that will be coming out will take care of that, and we'll make that work. Now, I would love to show you a demo of Decentrally, so I don't know if I can just open a website here.
There's nothing I hate more than someone asking a question in the middle of the talk and derailing it, so I do apologize.
No, this is time for questions.
Great. Okay, so when you did this deal, is this a testnet deal, or that was an SP you're running that it doesn't?
This is an Akave storage node right now, yes. So this is the first part of the network that we're building. From there on, it will do replication to other nodes, or if I would set the bucket policy to Filecoin, it will store it automatically on the SPs in the backend. Then Decentrally, I'll show you so how am I gonna show the demo? Yeah, I'll just pull up some videos. So I made a few videos on the website to make it easier for people to see, but this is kind of like in the interface. This is Filecoin backend directly against the storage providers, where you can just upload data, and in the backend it will prep it, store it, save it on the SP, and then the cache. This is really caching, right? So caching would be flushed, and at that point, if you download it back, it will come directly from the storage provider all the time. So the only thing saved on Decentrally from a Filecoin's perspective is the metadata and the linking to the storage on Filecoin, right? So it's a little bit different approach. So nothing gets stored on Decentrally. Technically, I can, but yeah. like something on Decentrally, for instance, which like I got really good feedback on is when you look at, for instance, I just showed you the drag and drop, which is pretty easy, but also people are really interested on seeing like the Filecoin proofs directly on the storage, which a lot of like people get like direct feedback on, okay, I stored on this drag and drop, now what? And what I do is I kind of pull in the actual proof from the Filecoin blockchain and attach that to the actual file, so you can always look on chain on where your data is and the proof daily on what's happening there. So that's all fully integrated into the platform.
Are you using anything like MinIO for the S3 layer or doing it directly?
So on Decentrally side, I chose to use Seaweed FS as the API itself, because back in the day that was just more easy for me to adopt at the time, and I didn't change it. For Akave, we're building it from the ground up, but we're using the API spec from MinIO. So it's the same data structure, yeah, same API calls. Yeah. And then an easy one, I think, which a lot of people give really good feedback on Decentrally, which is also going to be in Akave, is like kind of a cloud migration, which is a lot of talk today because people want to be able to move storage around. And what you can do is on Akave, we'll have this notion of zones. So you can choose in which zone or you want to replicate it or move your data in. From a Decentrally's perspective, you'll have a cloud migration way, which basically just means you have Filecoin mounted in your client, and then you have AWS or Azure or Google mounted where you can just drag and drop between clouds. So if you want to move it, doesn't matter how large it is. I tested to several hundred gigs. I tested a few terabytes. It does it without an issue. It kind of kicks it off in the background, and you can just continue using the platform, and you just wait till it gives you a signal that it's done. So very easy to use. The same is going to be on Akave, where you can choose your zone where you want to replicate it to. Like zone is kind of a geolocation on the planet, and where you can just decide on like, oh, I want to move it there on, in a replicated way, or you want to like erasure code it in that zone. That's all up to you, and then you can just choose that as well.
A major issue that Paul Wagner from the foundation has identified for clients is that the industry standard for anyone using cloud storage is you pay a monthly fee. Mm-hmm. And Filecoin timelines are 540 days, which is totally incompatible. So I'm curious if with Decentrally you'll charge per month and deal with the storage providers yourself, and how you might hedge that risk if they don't pay over the course of 540 days and they cancel early, this type of thing. I don't know. That might be some food for thought.
There's definitely a challenge. Let's put it that way. But right now, like at Decentrally, I chose to take that hit, that risk, right? So I still store it for 18 months. Assuming the customer will keep the data in there for 18 months. Also, because of the SPs that I work with, or myself, it just grows the miner, so it also creates blocks and Filecoin at that point. So it's kind of you take that risk and you kind of de-risk it that way too. So you give and take a little bit on that regard, I think. When it comes to Akave, we're going to make that more efficient. If I read the code well, and I looked into it with some other people too, is that there is a way to do a shorter extension. So you start at 6 months and then you extend it almost day by day. So then you have more flexibility on that. So that's kind of the new approach, but that's not, I don't think it's built in yet into, for instance, like Lotus or Client, that as far as I know, but the protocol should support it. I don't know, maybe Magic, you can talk to that more.
Do it in Korea.
Okay. You can do it in Korea? Well, there you go. Then looking forward to start working with that.